Hello, travel biz owner. Welcome to my corner of the travel industry, the Strategic Travel Entrepreneur Podcast. If you're ready to have fun, be inspired, get clarity, and take action in your travel business, then you're in the right place. Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm officially kind of back now. I say that because I was out on vacation and now I am currently, if you're listening to this as soon as it goes live, I am at the Women in Travel Summit in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I am traveling. I'm still available if you need anything from me, but I might not be like as quick as I normally would be working from my home office, just because I am out and about and making a lot of new amazing connections here at the Women in Travel Summit. So, back to normal kind of ish, but soon. Thank you so much to so many of you who did send your well wishes. If you're new around here, my birthday was last week. And so I went on vacation as I normally do around that time of year. We stayed very close. We stayed in St. Pete. I'm based in Orlando, which ended up being a really great thing because after we made those decisions, I found out that week my first niece was graduating from high school. So I'm really glad that we were able to make it back and see her because it's funny now that I have turned the official 40, and even like before I turned 40, I had been starting to be like, so I get it. Like when people that I thought were older than me, or technically who were older than me, would say like, oh my gosh, I remember when you were so little. I am now one of those people. Because thinking about my niece's graduation, that's all I was thinking about. I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember, because I was there. I was like the birth support to her mom, who's one of my really close family friends. Well, her family we're very close. So I was there through everything. So yeah, to be able to like see full circle her graduating high school is really, really amazing. And we just had a really great time. Lots of art. I learned how to do some stained glass. Went to my favorite art studio here in Orlando, Abstract Orlando. We did lots of not lots, but there were some moments that we got to see both my family and my partner's family. So really great overall. I also got to meet some of you in person in real life. Whoop, whoop. So if you were at the Central Florida Travel Advisor Trade Show, I think that's what it was called. Hello, friends. I met some of you real life. It was my first ever trade show that I was a vendor at in the travel industry, which was super, super neat. And that was kind of like the basis of last week's episode. You kind of heard me doing the before and after. So I've been getting some really great feedback from that. I have also been getting some messages from you from our fan mail. So if you didn't know, there's a way that you can message me through the podcast. All you have to do is go to the show description and hit the button or the link that says send Rita your thoughts, and it will send me your thoughts. Now, this episode is kind of like not a continuation, but like a different part of an episode we did a few weeks ago about how to make $50,000 as a travel advisor. We're going to get very cruise specific because that was something that was actually requested via fan mail. So thank you to whoever is in Ohio who requested that, because we're going to get along with that episode very shortly. Also want to say thank you to listener who is either based in Belgium or was in Belgium on May 5th, because that's what I see here. This is the episode I needed. The overwhelm was real, killing my darlings as of now. Thank you, Rita, for the reminder. And then someone from Uniontown, Pennsylvania also wrote in, I loved your episode about how to make $50,000. I'd love to hear more types of trips. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. Thanks for all you do. Great podcast. Thank you so much, because you're in luck, because we're going to be talking about cruising on this episode. So really, If you want to send me your thoughts, your feedback, if you have episode ideas, guest ideas, anything of the sort, you can definitely send that in through that fan mail feature, that Send Rita Your Thoughts link at the very, very top of the show description inside your podcast player right now. And that will come to me. It is technically like a text message, but I don't get your full phone number. I just get like the last 4 digits. So don't worry if you're kind of trying to be anonymous. You still remain anonymous unless you tell me what your name is in that message. Then I'll know what your name is. But for the most part, I have no idea who is sending some of these messages. So there you go. There is a lot of really cool things that are happening on the host agency reviews front that I wanted to let you know. If you didn't already know, the Travel Advisor Survey is open now. I highly recommend that you get to take that, not only because you're going to be contributing to amazing information that will help out the industry as a whole, but also if you take and complete the survey, you get access to the survey for free. So if you don't take the survey, you have to pay for the survey information to get access to the information. So do yourself a favor and take the survey. It's available now. I'll try and remember to put the link into the show description. On that note, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about travel tech and all things and some of the new innovations that are happening. The Travel Tech Week of host agency reviews called Hardwired, which you'll probably see me behind the scenes because I do help out behind the scenes in their events. That is happening June 9th through 11th. So you're going to hear some people, I think, at least one of the speakers that was at my tech summit, you're going to hear at Hardwired as well. Plus, you're going to hear a lot more people. You're going to hear from fellow travel advisors. You're going to hear from travel industry experts on how to use technology, improve your client experience with technology, how it can really streamline and scale your systems. There's also Demo Day, which is happening on the 11th. And there will be back-to-back at least 15-minute demos of different technologies. Off the top of my head, I can remember Travify, Turn, Planet Easy, I think Travel Joy. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. There's I think a booking platform called Distriptly. There's an AI. There's a marketing platform. So there's a lot of different things that are going to be there. So if you want to take a look at that, definitely do that at Hardwired. It is completely free to sign up thanks to the sponsors of that event. Last but not least, what I want you to know is that if you are on my email list, if you are a subscriber, this is the last weekend that my birthday promo is live. And remember, we started at a really nice offer at the beginning of the month, and then I've just tapered it off. So you save just $10 off the annual subscription, but only June 1st, only until June 1st. So once the clock strikes midnight and it turns to June 1st, that promo expires. So just check out the last email that I sent last Friday and you can get access to that. So that is May 31st, 2026. All right, I think those are all of the updates. Now, I did a booty ton of research for this episode because I wanted to kind of come at this from a couple different directions. I wanted to come at this episode from if you were selling couples or if you were selling families. So we're getting into... I am breaking this up. We're going to start with a mass market cruise line. We're going to do pricing for both couples and family of 4. Then we're going to get to a premium line, same thing, couples or family of 4. And then we're going to get to a luxury line, again, only couples, because I'm not sure that they have cabins for more than 2 people for this luxury line. Then we're going to do a world cruise because I thought it was interesting to add a world cruise to the mix. And then we're also going to do an expedition cruise. Now, I cannot do all different cabin categories and all different types of vacations and trips that are sailing. So we're just going to get to the base of certain things, nitty gritty. I'm starting everybody at either a balcony or they're doing a suite. So for the first three, my mass market, my premium, my luxury, I kind of compared Alaska itineraries. They're all for August of this year. They're all sailing around like the same time, like beginning mid of August. I thought it was going to be very interesting just to compare apples to apples. And not like do anything like too varied or too different, because it is pretty interesting to see what the differences are. Like once you get into like going into suites versus balcony, and does it really make much of a difference if you go from 2 people in a cabin to 4 people in a cabin? Once we get up to like the world cruise, I didn't do that because there's so many different cabin types. Also, I believe the world cruise that I was checking on did not have as much availability on it. Now the last one, the expedition, it is going round trip Reykjavik. It is an Iceland Arctic cruise. I believe I also did this for August of 2026. The world cruise goes January 2027. So I just wanted to kind of give you a lay of the land, what we're going in here with. I also will say that I decided to stay with a cruise line group for the first 3 cruises. Again, kind of make it a little bit easier if you do book Royal Caribbean group, because we're going to start off with Royal Caribbean, then we're heading to Celebrity, and lastly, we're going to go to Silver Sea. And then from there, the world cruise that I priced out was with Oceania. And then the Arctic cruise that I priced out is with Ponant. The Arctic/expedition is with Ponant. So, are you ready to see how many cruises you need to sell? I also will slightly touch a little bit on like timing wise of how long it's going to take or how long it should take you to work on some of these. And we'll talk a little bit about different timing factors, but let's get into it. So, most of these are going to be Alaska cruises. So, starting off with our Royal Caribbean, for those of you that know the ships and need to know like what ship this one is specifically, because I didn't get the ship for the Oceania or the Ponant, but I do have the ships for the other 3, our Alaska cruises. So this is an Anthem of the Seas. It is round trip Seattle. And these first, everything except for the world cruise is a 7-night cruise. So this Anthem of the Seas round trip Seattle is going to head to Sitka, Skagway, Endicott Arm, and Dawes Glacier, Juneau. It will have 2 sea days or cruising days, and there will be a stop in Victoria because of the Jones Act. If you didn't know, any ships that are sailing round trip to the States do have to make an international stop before they come back to the States. So now that you've got that lay of the land, we're going to talk about our couples. So, and pricing is really interesting because it doesn't seem like commission is too different if you're selling for 2 versus if you're selling for 4. So I feel like adding more people to the cabin, it's going to be more lucrative just to add a whole separate cabin than it is to add more people into the cabin. But still, it is technically kind of an upsell just adding a couple more people, but because overall it does help increase your commission and decrease the amount of bookings that you need. So a balcony cabin for 2 people sells for, and I was trying to get like the most recent rates, roughly $6,200. So your commission on that is roughly $800-ish. So for that type of trip on Royal Caribbean, you need to sell 62 cabins. Now, I know I was talking a lot about like how that's like 62, that's over 1 a week that you're going to have to sell. It's kind of like 1 a week plus like an extra every 4 weeks or so, something like that. And I know last time that we did this episode, I was talking a lot about selling by week, But I feel especially like if you are a Royal Caribbean expert, if you know their Alaska itineraries and you know their ships that sail to Alaska, or you just know even just their ships in general, or their vibe or their culture of the cruise line, it should not be hard at all for you to crank out selling these 62. So while I say you could do one a week, I feel if you are a Royal Caribbean expert, selling one of these cabins max is probably going to take you an hour of work. And I think about an hour of work between intake and answering questions. Intake, meaning you're putting the forms in and then you're doing the booking and then you're also answering any questions that might happen. If these are like newer clients or they need a little bit more hand holding, maybe like 2 to 5 hours, which again, I feel is still very doable, especially on a weekly basis. If this is like your full-time job, this should be like a no-brainer. It's kind of like if you sell one balcony a day for however many days that you work. Also factoring in that you might need to take like medical leave. You definitely need to take vacation time. There's definitely going to be holidays and graduations and weddings and all sorts of like family stuff popping up. So you're not working 24/7, 365. So this may be easier for some people to get to versus other people not to get to. Now, again, when I say we're getting up to $50,000, this is commissions, this is revenue. Also, like something that I forgot to do this time as I was doing my math, now that I think about it, is I forgot to factor in a fee. So if we are factoring in $250 as your fee because you're doing more research for the client or you're trying to figure out like what's the best itinerary for them. So if I go to 62 bookings for that, so that's 15,000. Okay, hold on. Let me do some maths. I feel like you could probably take off at least 15. So hold on. We're doing this live in real time. So if, let's say we do 55 cabins. So 55 of these cruises with 250 is 13,750 of a fee. 13,750. Okay. This is very awkward doing math live here with you, but it is what it is. We're going to go on this journey together. Okay. I'm doing the math. Plus 13, or no, times 55 equals plus 13,750. Okay, that's 58. So I went down to 50. So remember, we started with 62 without a fee. I went down to 55. You're still going to be over. So I feel like you could probably only sell 50 as long as you're charging a fee there. And then that kind of offsets the amount of cabins that you sell. Meaning if your time is restricted, this helps you out even more. Like charging a fee helps you out even more because you're not having to sell as many cabins. Hopefully that kind of makes sense for you all. Now, that's a balcony cabin. If we are working with people who love to live it up, love their space, want some more amenities, want to have that genie that's available for them, want that exclusive restaurant and a couple different perks, we're going to put them in a grand suite. A grand suite was actually the only suite that was available on this sailing. Again, I'm talking August 2026. So a grand suite for 2 people costs $14,953.36. It's a grand suite 1-bedroom, correction. So the commission that you'll be making off of that cabin is about $2,200, which is chef's kiss, fantastico. Not counting in that fee, you only need to sell 23 grand suites to make your $50,000 in revenue. So I would say if you're adding in that fee, you're definitely taking at least like 5 grand suites away. So you're getting into like the teens now. Like that's 18 cabins to sell if you're adding in the fee. versus not adding in the fee, which is more like 23. Again, like roughly, because I was silly and I forgot that math. But how crazy is that? Like bumping up from a balcony to a grand suite. And I will say, like, I feel like sometimes it's daunting to think of like suite guests, but I'm picturing one of my really good friends who she was in this industry and she's kind of like sunset her agency. She is the type of person who would book a grand suite because she wants to be comfortable. I would never classify her as someone like hoity-toity, pretentious. She's just blue collar. Her husband made really great business decisions, and they're making really great money with the businesses that he has. And the businesses that he has is not like anything extravagant in terms of like not a stock trader or anything like that. I feel like he also has a very blue collar, but he's not like working 24. Well, he's not working 24/7, but he likes to stay occupied with projects. So maybe he is working 24/7, but he is like a very hard worker. He is involved. He also has like maybe a couple of employees. So again, like very like normal, down to earth people. Like I feel sometimes we can't like attain really who a luxury type client might be, and luxury can simply be like, I just want those creature comforts. Like I don't want to be smushed in a little cabin. I want to be able to breathe and walk around and have room, and I want to have perks so I don't have to wait in line or I don't have to find a seat because it's already picked out for me. So all of these conveniences are things that luxury travelers look towards. So now moving, same cruise, but now we have a family of 4 and not just a couple of 2. So let me take a drink. A family of 4 in a balcony is about $6,700. So approximately like $500 more than 2, because the 3rd and 4th, their fares are much less than the first 2. It was interesting when I did the math on this because we went down on commission. Now I will say, I believe this was a different category because we had more people. So whereas a couple is about $800 in commission, this is about $700 in commission. So you need to sell about 70 of those to get to, not including any fee that you might charge. I'm always going to recommend that you start at $250 if you're just doing like a base package fee, especially if you're doing a lot of research or you're trying to do a lot of pre-post. And like adding those additional items in is going to cost you more on your time. So where I was saying like, max, you're just doing the cruise and it's really simple, it's only going to take you an hour of work, it may take you more than an hour of work to like be adding the hotel, adding any shore excursions, adding transfers and things like that. So just being mindful and also being able to do a time test to see like how much time does it really cost you. Because I can say you need to sell like 1 to 2 a week and that's pretty simple. But do you have that much time in your week? Especially like if you're working another job, if you're being a caretaker to a family member or somebody else that you know or that you've been entrusted with. Do you have that much time to enlist in booking a trip? You might not. Same thing, like $50,000 might be exactly what you need. $50,000 might be more than you need, might be less than you need. So being able to just adjust and count for like what exactly that you're needing. Now, that family of 4, we're also going to put them in the same suite because I think that suite the grand suite 1 bedroom can actually fit 6 people in there. So that is getting into $17,599.72, which is only like maybe $300 or $400 more compared to the party of 2. So if you're doing a lot of families in suites, you only need to sell 21 of these to make your $50,000 revenue goal. All right, lots of numbers. Clearly, if you're selling into suites, you're doing a little bit better. Doing better in terms of, especially if you're limited on time, you don't have to invest as much time to get to your income goal. When we're moving over to celebrity, we're going on the Celebrity Edge. This is also a round trip Seattle. There's 2 cruising days. You have a day in Ketchikan, another trip heading over to Endicott Arms and Dawes Glacier, Juneau, Skagway. You also have the Inside Passage and Victoria. So pricing is just a little bit higher. Now, when we go to the suites, I did have to go into the villas because there weren't that many lower category suites that were available. So you're gonna see a big jump here. But just talking about the balcony, we'll start out with the family of 4 first. Is that $6,655 with 96 cents. That's approximately $677 in commission, which is a lot. You have to sell about 74, again, not counting if you do charge fees. You have to sell 74 of these cruises. So a little bit less commission which was a little, well, let me see if we're looking at the Royal Caribbean. So the Royal Caribbean was $6,700. This one was $6,600. There's still more commission. So I wonder, there's got to be a category difference. Because it looks like you have to sell a little bit more on the Celebrity for families of 4 versus on the Royal Caribbean. Now, I had to sell, or in order to make this worth what was available during that August 2026 time for a family of 4 was an Edge Villa. An Edge Villa for a party of 4 is going to be $30,000, $30,182.96. Sorry, clearly cannot do numbers today. Commission on something like that is about $4,400, which is fantabulous. So if you're not charging any fees, you only need to sell one of these cruises a month to get to your $50,000 revenue goal. How crazy is that? And that's where I say the beauty is in specializing and becoming an expert, because when you know exactly all the ins and outs of either a certain cruise line or a certain destination, you can laser in on exactly where you want to be hanging out at, who you want to be engaging with online, maybe trade shows that you want to be attending, or people that you're going to be partnering up with and maybe putting ads in front of their audiences to sell cruises to Alaska. If you're being ultra targeted and ultra specific, and especially targeting some of these higher net worth people, you don't have to sell as much because, do you want to sell 12 cabins or do you want to sell 67 or 70, 74? Any set of those. Now, it may be easier and you may have the clientele to be selling just the regular balcony cabin. And that's where time is your friend, because if you are going in and day out and it's only taking you max an hour to knock this out, you are winning out, my friend. But if you're not wanting to sell that many cruises, you may want to start targeting more villa suite type guests. Now, we did kind of start on the high end because we started with a family of 4. What does that look like if it is just 2 people, like a couple or mother-daughter or friend group or friends, because 2 people doesn't really make that big of a group. So a balcony on the Celebrity Edge Alaska Sailing is going to be nearly $5,000. So it's just $49 and some change. So your commission on that is about $618, which means you need to sell 81 of those every single year to get to your $50,000 in revenue. Now, if you are doing that beautiful Edge Villa, which I don't even know what's in the Edge Villa, but it sounds very snazzy, for a couple of 2, that is $25,102.48. That's only one more for a family of 2 compared to the family of 4 in the same villa. You only need to sell 13 as opposed to 12. So is this sounding good to you? Let me know. Man, sometimes I wish like for these types of episodes, I had you like live in the studio with me as I'm recording just to hear your thoughts on these numbers. Now we're heading over to our luxury cruise. So this is on Silver Sea. This is the August 13th sailing on the Silver Whisper. It is not a round trip. This is heading from Seward, Alaska to Vancouver, Canada. So you're going to be getting to stop and see Hubbard Glacier, Juneau, Haines, Sitka, Klawak. I hope I pronounced that right. Klawak. And then you also do have a day at sea. So you get some ports that are not typically on like the average. It's not just the Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway. Sitka, I feel, is becoming a little bit more popular in some of the itineraries, but Haines is more on like what I feel like more premium and higher end. Klawak, I've never even heard of, and please let me know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, which I probably am. So I priced out a silver suite, which kind of sounded like it was a little bit more entry level, and then an owner's suite. So again, no parties of 4 in this one, and no more parties of 4 in the other examples that I'm about to give. So a silver suite for 2, so this is the starter-ish suite, is $24,800. So the commission on that is going to be about $3,700. And for some of these other ones, like for Celebrity and Royal Caribbean, I had the exact commission numbers. I'm kind of guesstimating based on like 15%-ish commission. So that's why I'm factoring it's going to be about $3,700, give or take. So selling, you only need to sell 14 of those, not counting any fees that you might want to charge. So again, if you are charging fees, you might just need to charge, well, you might just only need like 13 or 12 compared to how much you're charging in fees. If we head on up to the owner's suite, which looks like it's only like a $7,000 difference. So whereas the silver suite was 24, the owner suite is 31. The approximate commission for this is going to be $4,500. So you would only need to sell 12 owner suites per year to make your $50,000 revenue goal. Who likes that one? Because that one, I love it when it's kind of like, it's not single digits, but it is just, it's like a dozen or a baker's dozen. Especially like when you're thinking about your time, like this is what makes like turning to like a premium or even upgrading, because even if you just sold suites on mass market, so going back to that Royal Caribbean, the Grand Suite, you're still selling 20 or 21 or 23, not including fees again, which is fantastic. That's like one every other week that you need to sell. And I feel like that is so doable, especially if you are still working full time or again, have other duties that you can't devote 30, 40, however many hours, or you don't want to work 30, 40 hours because you have so much going on or you have other things that you'd like to do. Because I know I would love to get to like a 20-hour work week and then just be able to volunteer more locally, maybe attend some shows more locally. There's a lot I would love to do with that. All right, so those were all of our Alaska itineraries. We're going to head on over to our World Cruise and then our Expedition Arctic Cruise. Our World Cruise, hopefully, depending on like what you know about World Cruises, this is not going to really shock you how many you need to sell. So this World Cruise is on Oceania. It set sail in January of 2027, which is typical for most world cruises. They do set sail at the beginning of the year so that they can finish kind of like springtime, because this cruise is 180 days long. It starts in Miami, it ends in London. This particular world cruise will make stops in the Caribbean, South and Central America, Hawaii, Polynesia, different places in Asia like Japan and the Philippines, Australia, Dubai, different places in North Africa, also the Mediterranean, and then you head back to London, or you head to London. So I believe maybe Spain and France. France was definitely included in the itinerary. I didn't even go too bougie for this one. I just settled for like a balcony cabin. I didn't even go for a suite for this one. So a balcony cabin for two on board Oceania, and take this because this is 180 days plus. There are a lot more inclusions with world cruises because this is pretty much like your apartment at sea while you are gone for that amount of time. So, balcony cabin for two aboard an Oceania world cruise in January 2027 is, drum roll please, $177,000. No, I did this wrong again. $177,598. Bum, bum. That's a pretty good commission if you tell me. So I am guesstimating, again, around 15% of commission means that your take home from this, or at least like the commission that you get paid, not including what your expenses are, is going to be $26,639.70. So if you're doing math with me, you only have to sell 2 world cruises to get to your $50,000 commission goal, revenue goal, which is insane. Now, like I was kind of mentioning with the suites, it is a little bit harder to find suite type guests, but it is very, very doable. Not everybody is going to be a world cruiser, though. Like somebody who is going to take a suite to Alaska is also going to take a suite to the French Riviera. They're also going to take a suite to probably any other cruise that they're sailing on. So they're going to be like repeat customers when it comes to that. A world cruise, I don't believe there's that many people that are repeating world cruises. They might cruise again, but they're not repeating the world cruise. At least not to my knowledge. If you know that there's a lot of repeat world cruisers, well then let me know and set me straight. So it does make it a little bit harder to sell a world cruise. Not only that price tag makes it harder because, we are talking about revenue for ourselves, just $50,000. So it would take 4 years in order to make the amount of, and not including any expenses too. So maybe like 5 or 6 years in order to save that amount of money with a $50,000 revenue goal to be able to go on a world cruise. Thinking about that. This is not your everyday type of client. This is going to be a very special client. This is going to be kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it is going to be a little bit harder because you do have to do more digging to find this right type of client where all the factors kind of align. Now, there are world cruises on mass market and premium cruises. I feel like Oceania is like a premium luxury. Like, I don't think it's full luxury, but it's not also just premium. It's kind of like a little bit of in between. So that's why I also wanted to use that one as an example, because I felt like it was an easier one to get into. So if you have sold any world cruises, please do tell. And last but not least, we have our expedition cruise. I was like, I have to add an expedition cruise to this mix because we talked about Tulip Time last week, and we did talk about like ocean not last week, but in this last episode. So going into another big market that's kind of booming is those Arctic, those polar. So we went with Ponant for this one, round trip Reykjavik. It is like one that kind of goes around. It's all Iceland. So it's like, I would call it like an Iceland intensive cruise. Also, not going with like the best, but also not with the worst stateroom. So this one's called a prestige stateroom, which does have a balcony. It's on one of the lower, like I think this one was a deck 4 prestige, but you can do like deck 5 or 6. Remember, expedition ships are also much smaller compared to like the massive, like it's probably itty bitty compared to that Anthem of the Seas or the Celebrity Edge, which we first talked about. A couple of 2 going in one of these cabins for expedition is going to be $18,000 for that, which means, again, at my guesstimation, it's probably about $2,700 in commission for this expedition cruise, which means, again, not including fees, you need to sell about 19 of these to make your $50,000 revenue goal. You probably need to sell even less if you are charging fees and doing a complete service. And I feel like some of these longer, more extensive cruises are kind of helpful in the sense, or these like higher end cruises are kind of helpful because if you are wanting to really customize the trip, because that's what that type of client really wants, trying to sell like 60 or 70 is kind of a lot throughout the year. So having these smaller numbers does make sense because you're able to have like more personal attention and like really give that curated experience to your client that type of client is looking for. Now, I wouldn't say that those types of clients are like, there are certain clients that are like beck and call, you need to be answering. I don't want those types of clients. I'm sure you don't want those types of clients either. You want people who are going to respect any boundaries, which there are clients like that out there. So, and I just feel like while a more luxury suite expedition type of client is going to be expecting a little bit more, I wouldn't call them like more needy than even like, because sometimes, especially if you've been in the business long enough, that interior stateroom on the Alaska cruise is probably more needy than those luxury clients, which is so annoying. And you're getting paid pennies, which is also why I didn't even include interior or balcony in this equation, because we're focused on this big money, this relatively larger money here. So let me know what you thought about this episode. Let me know if you want me to do other types of trips. Again, I think this was really helpful, especially if you wanted to focus on cruise, maybe some destinations, or like, should you maybe start marketing? Because I know that there's a travel agency that has created a social media account that is strictly focused on selling world cruises. I'm not sure like how that, or if that has resulted in sales or like traction, but I'd be curious to check that out. Because I feel like there's very unique ways, like if you wanted to market some of these more lucrative sailings and more lucrative commission-based and like less work on your end, there's ways to really do it. And again, like really specialize. This is not like, you're not going to go to the family festival in your neighborhood and market a almost 200,000 world cruise. They're probably going to look at you crazy. You're going to have to like go to different vendor type of events. And it's probably not even vendor events. You're going to have to go to like a lot of like volunteering, like charity type galas to find the type of clientele that you're wanting to attract and wanting to be around that will be more apt to buy in like these world cruises and things like that. So let me know if there's any other ideas. I hope this episode was also helpful, especially if you do specialize in cruise or wanting to be doing more cruise. And I will see you here next week with another episode. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for joining me on the podcast today. Remember to check out the show notes for all relevant links and resources from today's show. See you next time.